Good morning. Before I begin, are there questions? What?
When we went to Mexico, we went to visit some of the pyramids, and it prompted a lot of questions in me about some things I'd like to explore, to answer some questions about what was happening and how it was happening, and some of the sciences and how they were using the energy, and I got a much better feel for what was going on than I had before, because I was actually there. And then also how it's connected to a lot of the stuff that Don Juan talks about, and those the Celtics and all that, and then all the stuff that we've talked about. But as I was there, one of the things that struck me is that what has appeared to have happened is that the old sciences, or the science that they were using at the time, the Earth has basically destroyed all the evidence of it. For those so that when people go back and they look at it, they don't know what they're looking at. And
Well,
there's like another set of ideas when because I always wondered why when the Spanish came over and they just wiped everything out. They wiped out all the people and all the information and everything. It's like, was that getting ready for this modern age and transforming from that idea to this, so that another experience was about to start to take place, and that was what was going on back then, and then it's like the whole thing got erased, and then something else is starting to occur. That's what kind of came to mind.
Well, yeah. Time did not destroy the evidence of the science. The evidence of the science is still there. You just have to know what you're looking at. The science of that time, and see, we have to talk way, way before the Spaniards. We have to talk before recorded history. Okay? When the Spaniards came, well, as with anything, here's the deal. Most of the people involved in anything haven't a clue. If you look at any religion, pick one, anyone. If there is anybody who knows anything about it, it may be one or two people, and the masses of the people are ignorant. So when the Spanish came, of course they were able to wipe them out, because those who had specific knowledge of the ancient sciences were few. Those who talked the talk were many, but had no means to utilize what they were talking about, much like we have here. See, what you have is that these sciences, the sciences of that time, were based in this. That's why there's no real evidence of it left, because there were only a couple of things that were needed. But there are certain things in the world. The pyramids outside of Mexico City. There is a kind of pyramidal clock in Southeast Asia. The pyramids. And there's another one that all link up to the heavens. They all link up. They all are in strategic positions. What this is about energy flows, right? Well, energy flows that we're talking about are so subtle that people don't sense them, because they're too caught up in the illusion. They're too caught up in their own minds. They're too caught up in their own misery. So they're too caught up in all these gross things, to be able to sense the more subtle things. So, yes, you're correct. The message, if you look at the Great Pyramid, the one in North Africa, the structure itself is the message. All of the message is contained within the structure of the pyramid itself and the building of the pyramid. Actually, we have the language and use it in our schools every day and don't understand it. It's called geometry. We have the whole thing. It's right there in the geometry book. The whole thing. But because we are short-sighted, we are shallow. I know the word I can use is thinking, but that's not really right because we don't really think. Okay, we have thoughts. Processors. Yeah, we don't really think though, you know. So it's there, but we look at it very shallowly. We're just concerned about, well, if we put this angle with that angle and this with that, it'll make a sturdy structure, or we can figure out how high this is going to be by blah, 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 blah. What we don't understand is what we're saying. See? And when you don't understand what you're saying, the greatest message in the world means nothing. But it's all there. It's all there in the structure. At that point in time, well, let's look at it like this. For those of you who've known me for a very long time, there was a time when I didn't say a whole lot unless I was giving a lecture or teaching a class, something like that. I didn't say a whole lot. The reason I didn't say a whole lot was because, was it you who asked me? Someone asked me. Said, was it you? Yeah, I think it was you. Words are lies. Yeah, that's what I thought it was you. Words are lies. They say absolutely nothing. Okay? So, what is the thing that means something? Form. Because form can only be what it is. Action. Action can only be what it is. So the language was in form. How do you construct a pyramid? What does all that mean? It's all there in the geometry. Because the geometry of mathematics is the only true language. This many of these and this many of these equal these many of these. You can't change that. It's no interpretation. Okay? You either get the message or you don't. Okay? And if you don't, there's probably something wrong with you. Okay? You got a real tiny brain. Real tiny brain. Little pinhead. Anyway, that's the language. The language is specific, you see. So that's why it was written in the way it is. It's written to be absolute. Because it is absolute. But men like to pontificate and like to give their opinion. This many of these and this many of these equals these many of these does not care about anyone's opinion. So the language of that science was written in geometry. So it's still there. A lot of the, just to say yes to what you said. The evidence of the greatest of the civilization that has had the most compatible science with the cosmos build these structures. These structures and the use of that was non-toxic unless you were stupid. You know, it's just like electricity. You wouldn't go and grab hold of these two wires. Well, you might in this case. I mean, you shouldn't, but someone who is not thinking about what they're doing might. All right. That was the only damage that could be done. The only damage that could be done was to an uninitiated person. You could not do damage to the environment. You couldn't screw up the water. You couldn't do any of that with these scientists. That's why they were the most compatible. Yeah.
Dan, there's another science that's being used, or that the society uses now. It's very technical. It's another set of dynamics to work out another set of problems, or have another group of experiences.
Have another group of experiences.
As I'm viewing this, I'm trying to piece this stuff together inside, and what is happening in my life and in my world.
Okay.
And the society in which we live in, it is what it is. And it's not the only way to be, but it is what it is.
It's very childish, is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very childish. We are about 3 or 4 years old.
Right.
In the technology that we have. Okay, let me, all right. Let me elucidate for you. I'm going to elucidate now. All right. Let's go back. We've gone through that. We've all heard this story before. I want to tell it to you again, because now, because of the question, it will be in a different context. Okay? That's right. In a different context now. The first number is 1. The second number is 3. There is no such number as 2. Because of our minds, we like to break things up and say this is 1, this is 2. But we're talking about in the mind, out of which flowed the sciences we're talking about. Because we're talking about real things. We're not talking about abstracts. We're talking real things. 1, there is 1 in 3, and there is 3 in 1. Because we're talking a real thing. So we're talking a point. It can be a line, as we call it, or just a point. If it is a point in space, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. All right, so the number is 3, not 2. 2 is the number of division. 2 is the number of the double. 2 is the number of the devil. Not the woo-woo-woo devil, but that which breaks unity. Right? So the next number the next thing in the progression of that mind that produced this science is 6. 6 plus 1. Everything that is in existence has 6 sides. Look around. You'll see top, bottom. That's 6 sides. It cannot exist without 6 sides in nature. Okay. So what we have here is a reporting of the structure of that which is natural. Okay? The number of life is 7. these many plus this many. The number of life is 6 plus 1. 6 sides plus what is contained within it. Right? So, when you look at form, you see 6 sides. You see what we call a cube. Has different shapes, but generally it is the same thing. So we take this cube and we begin to slice it. Start at the middle and work out toward the edge like that. And we take that piece and turn it over. Slice it this way. We take that piece and turn it over. So these two things that we just sliced off, I think they call dodecahedrons, I think. You put them back to back and they're mirrors of each other, and they represent the two forces of the universe, what the Chinese call the yin and the yang. It represents the forces that work together to make things happen, the positive and the negative, electricity, heat and cold. You ever wonder why the planet is cold on the ends and hot in the middle? Makes stuff happen. If it was cold all the way through, everything was like this. If it was hot all the way through, everything would be just flowing like the center of the earth. Okay? You have to have these forces acting together to make the force of life flow. So anyway, we get to this. We turn what we have left over here inside out, and what do we have? We have a pyramid. We have the perfect shape, the 6 plus 1, the perfect within the form, which we can call, to use a word that we must forget what we think that word means, God, or consciousness, that which lives, that which sees, that which gave birth to intelligence. All right, so you see here what we're getting? As you look at that, this pyramid has what?
The shape only it comes to a point at the top,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides.
No. Okay.
You have one at the top, but it's the shape of it
Mm-hmm.
that creates the energy.
The shape of it, right.
Because of the natural flow of the energy in the universe, because it comes to a point at the top, you have a very small point at the very top. So that when the energy comes through, it's magnified down through the rest of it.
That's correct.
Because of because of the natural movement of energy. That's why the energy moves through the shape itself, all by itself, without.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I call it a natural, non-mechanical machine because it generates energy. Not only does it bring it in, but the very shape of it generates energy, because that's why they call it God, the perfect within the form. So not only does it do that, it itself generates energy. It brings energy from the earth, it brings energy from the heavens, and it, by its very nature, generates energy. Okay? So you've got, if you look at that, what you have is 4 sides. Those 4 sides will represent the 4 directions on earth that represent the sky, of the energy that comes from certain points in the sky to the earth. The first side and the primary side that faces magnetic north is the Leo. So you have Leo at the top, Sagittarius, and what's the other fire sign?
Aries.
Aries. Yeah. That's what you have here. So you have your fire sign facing north. So you got 3 points. You have the earth side facing south. I forgot what they are, Taurus, whatever they are. Nothing's important to me except Leos. I don't care about that other stuff. I can't remember. It's what it is. Then you have Then you have to the east your other 3 points, and here your other 3 points. So that's 12 points. The 12 constellations, they face that and they say, well, here's the kind of energy that comes from this point, or from these points. It doesn't have anything to do with that kind of astrology. It has more to do with astronomy, but it has to do with the effect that the study of astronomy has upon this point we call Earth, the energy. This point we call Earth. So they are 12 and 12 constellations, okay? Also, they represent the 12 ages, the 12 2,000-year periods, each one, okay? We call it an epoch, yes.
What age is best suited for this type of thought to occur to people?
The one coming in, Aquarius. The one that's in 2000 will be here. That's the one that's coming. And that's the one that can be the most beneficial or the most dangerous. Because it is the age of enlightenment, which is the breakdown of all rules that can be broken down. What have I said to you about awakening? It's breaking down all your crap. So this energy is the energy that's coming in and said, we're going to break it up now, guys. The problem is, stupefied people without rule are dangerous. They are very dangerous. When I say stupefied people, that is people who they haven't a clue what's going on. They are at the mercy of the energies like a leaf before the wind. That's why the balanced side, when you look at the opposite side, you're looking at Leo. Leo is the father. Leo represents discipline. So, out of this time, that fosters the energy of the breakdown of order. What is going to be born are dictators. Because dictators will be the only people who can keep the beast under control. The beast being the idiots who behave worse than beast. I say worse than beast because most beasts don't kill anything unless they're hungry or defending themselves. So that is the energy that will reflect this time. Remember, when you first made the cut, you had two forces. And when that happens, the force that's smart says, catch you later, I'm out of here. Because the other force, there's going to be war and destruction and that kind of thing. So it always happens this way. This is a part of the order. So it doesn't matter. That's how the sciences were lost. Because this happened before. That is why there's no record like records we keep today. Because everything was destroyed. The whole thing just sunk. Because of the warring factions. The whole thing just sunk. And was gone. People left in boats going to North Africa, South America. That's how all these points got built. Okay? It was the same thing, and the same thing happens over and over again. So even though we arrive at that age of enlightenment or that enlightenment within ourselves, the forces that be still rule. Does that make sense to you? Still rule. I'll mention something more about that in a moment. So, what you find is the ability within a human being. So if you look at that pyramid and you think about it, that point at the top where the energy comes in from the stars, it sits right on top of your shoulders. Your head, like I love that line from Tom Hanks. It's that thing that sits on your shoulders about 3 feet above your ass. I love that line. This is where it comes in from the heavens. Here's where it comes in from the feet. That's why, like in martial arts, when we teach you to stand, your base is broad, shoulder width. The broad base, the pointed top, for stability, so that the energy flows this way and this way. What this pyramid is a representation of all living things. And it's a map of how it works. Now, in order to utilize these sciences, all the petty little crap in our heads has to go, because that's what makes it dangerous. Not dangerous to the world at large, but dangerous to you, because it will burn out your nervous system, just like if you walked out there and cut those lines and grabbed them. It will burn your nervous system out just like that, because we're talking energy here. Okay, we're talking energy, different than we're used to dealing with in a sense, but nonetheless energy. When you come to this point, this is why we focused on this for so long. I keep saying you can't do that. Stay away from that negative crap. Get out of it. Leave that crap alone. Get rid of that negativity. Stop looking at your ordinary life the same way you've always looked at it, which means you're looking at it like it was when you were 2 years old. That's when most of the crap was formed. You're going through life as an adult, as a 2-year-old adult. That's not real bright. Okay? Emotionally, 2 years old. Now, what happens when you begin to play with those sciences? Because your mind offers such resistance, and there you are, going, I see the light. And the light see me. Okay, that's not what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to become more intelligent. So, there's a process through which you go to be able to utilize those sciences. There is a thing that is mentioned in, quote, myth. That thing is the Ark of the Covenant. It was a piece of equipment that could only be used by a certain kind of person. It is an amplifier. Like we have amps. That's why I say the amps, the sciences that we have today are the sciences of children. It's like an amp, except it amplifies something different. We amplify music. Wah, 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 we just jamming. Okay. Burning out our nervous system, burning out our eardrums, causing your body to vibrate at this really weird vibrational frequency, which is not too far removed from what we're talking about here. So, this tool is a crystalline or crystal based tool with a metal alloy that is also crystalline by the way it is made. What you're doing is making something that transmits energy. Crystals, if you look at crystals and the way they are in the earth, crystals are the nervous system of the earth. They transmit information. Just like your body has a nervous system, the whole thing has a nervous system. It transmits information. Okay? I think we never thought of why we could take a crystal and make a radio that will receive radio messages. We go, wow, this is neat. But we never think of what that is. For years I've said to you that the basis of creation is what? Thought plus energy. What happens is the desire for something, a need for something. The energy comes in and is amplified, and that thing becomes reality. This is the science. Say, well, my God, the pyramid, I mean, these people survived in the middle of the desert. Well, it was a desert when they got there, but that wasn't the way it was when they left. If you look at the Sphinx and the deterioration on the Sphinx, what you find is the deterioration could only have happened because of running water. That's not an Indian chief. Chief running water. Okay. Oh, running water. Oh, forgive me. I've been up for 18 days now or something. I don't know. The shape tells you that, the way it's rounded. If it had come from the top, it would be pitted in certain ways. But because if you look at it, it's like that, which suggests water running. The edges are rounded off, running water. Well, how do you make it rain? With the magic wand. That's why in the consciousness of man today, magicians have magic wands. Now we think, oh, it's just a stick. They go abracadabra. Well, that's what modern magicians do. But in the consciousness of man, way back in there, is the cultural in terms of man, not specific culture in terms of Italian, Irish, African American, German, not that, but mankind. That's why magicians are with these little wands instead. Now, there's also some other stuff like the little pointed hats that they wear. That's to hide the little pointed heads. No. But that goes back to that whole thing about the earth and the wobble of the earth, and captures, that cone represents and captures a particular kind of energy. Now, you remember I told you what that was. How you create. That's why I keep saying you have to learn how to focus. You have to take that energy that you put into feeling sorry for yourself, that you put into feeling whatever all that nonsense is, and you can focus that energy. Once you learn to stop talking to yourself about nonsense, and I say nonsense about relationships and who won't do this and who won't do that, and the government won't do this, and oh, po me, and blah blah, all that nonsense. If we grow up and start to look at this thing as with the stop technique, after a while you start noticing, whoa, oh, this is just energy. So you can put on your little cone head hat and get your little magic wand and make shit happen. Be like Mickey Mouse in Fantasia. Okay? Now, using this thing. Now, this thing was used for quite a while. See, this is the way the sciences were. People thought more at that time about their minds, those who thought. But keep in mind now, there were only a few who thought. The rest of them were wandering around out there in the desert, around the pyramid, going, wow, they sure make a lot of noise in there. Every time that noise happens, it rains. Kind of like the Clampets, when they say, every time that ringing happens, somebody's at the door. That kind of recognition.
Who were the beneficiaries of this knowledge, if only?
Everybody was a beneficiary, because the people around them ate the food that was grown because of the rain that they brought. You see what I'm saying? Everybody benefited. Just like today. You talk to most people about the food that they haven't a clue where it comes from. It comes from the stove. It comes in cans. What do you mean? They haven't a clue. It was the same thing. See, man has not changed a great deal in 10,000 years. He hasn't changed a whole lot. We like to think he has, but that's just egoism. But anyway, one of the most famous stories of the Ark of the Covenant in use is the story of Moses and how he brought the plagues, how he parted the Red Sea. See, our minds today cannot conceive of somebody parting a sea. That's because our science is stupid. I mean, that's because our science is not designed to do that. At that time, the sciences were geared toward operating in conjunction and harmonically with the forces around. Now we're starting to get a clue of that in some of our inventions now. The harmonics. Well, you can use harmonics to keep things out, to keep things in. It's kind of like the force fields that they talk about on Star Trek and all that. Yes, it's harmonics. It's no magic. It is no stuff, killing chickens and stuff. This is about science. And we think differently today. And we think foolishly because we think in little boxes and we don't see why or how you could cause a body of water to just part. We've talked about this. It's called vibrational frequency. You can put things in phase or out of phase. If you get them in phase, they act as a barrier. You know, it's there in the books. All we have to do is read it and think about it. Just have a thought. But because of the way our schools are designed, they are not designed to truly encourage thought. They are truly designed to encourage thought within a certain box. As long as you think in this box, you can be brilliant. Oh, he's brilliant. Well, look who's calling you brilliant. An idiot. You know, so it's like one of the problems I had and why I finally just dropped that whole thing was there were people. I wrote a paper once. I forgot what it was on, like in chemistry or physics or something like that. I wrote this paper. And the guy said, wow, this is a brilliant paper. And I looked at him, and my question was, how would you know? It's not brilliant, it's just a description of what's there. Oh man, you are really... Well, how would you know? It takes smart to know smart. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be egotistical or anything. It's just a fact. It takes intelligence to know intelligence. And if you're still going, duh, one, two. If you're still in that stage of your development, you have no right judging things. And there's so much of that going around. So what we're taught is in these little boxes by these people still going, duh. You can't part the water. What about all these little people standing around on the ground watching Wilbur Wright going, duh. You can't fly. See, today's magic is tomorrow's science. In this case, tomorrow's science, or yesterday's science, is today's magic. Because we don't stop to think how it happens. Natural law and amplifying the law, and thereby when you want it to rain, it can rain. Because you're affecting the electromagnetic energy of the atoms and molecules in the air everywhere. There's hydrogen and oxygen in the air everywhere. So what you have to do is get them to interact together. And you get this big clap of thunder and a stroke of lightning. It's called, in any chemistry class, they tell you you put two atoms of hydrogen together with one atom of oxygen, introduce a spark, you get an explosion plus water. It's just a matter of how you do it. So they did it using the power of clarity of their own mind, which is what we've been trying to produce in this group for now on to 20 years now. But see, it takes work. It takes real work. It takes suffering. It takes pain. Because we want life on our terms. Well, you can only have life on your terms when you understand what life's terms are. We still, see, one of the reasons we believe in magic, or we say, well, what you're talking about is magic. There's no basis in science for that. We keep doing that because we have no basis of science in our own minds. We want magic. We want what we want regardless of what the rules say, what the law says. I want it my way. That's why we keep having to stand around and stamp our little feet and throw our little tantrums. Because it's a matter of understanding the law. You have to come to the law first. When you come to the law, you know how to use it. Hey, it works. It works. It works. If somebody hands you, you're digging a hole, and somebody hands you a shovel, you've never seen a shovel before. You don't know what to do with it. They said, well, you take it and you put it in the ground like that, you put your foot on it, and that comes up. What are you talking about? That's witchcraft. No. It's a shovel. It's an ignorant stick. Okay. It's a shovel, okay? It shows us the limitation of the way in which we see the world and the limitation of the way in which we don't see the truth around us and the sciences, the wonderful sciences that could be available to us. I can't tell you the numbers of times I sit in groups of people or with singular people and they just talking about nothing. Nothing. And see, I don't know how to deal with that. That's one of the reasons I tell you, the smarter you become, the less you have to say, because you don't know what to say. We live in an electromagnetic soup. This whole thing is like a giant ocean. It's just finer than that, what's that? Lake Michigan. It's finer than the water in Lake Michigan. But nonetheless, there is much more of it. It surrounds the whole earth. This is the basis of the sciences that went before. A person who cleared themselves enough to see and to develop a tool made from the things that they see that can produce the desired effect. Crystal. North Africa. Cheops. What's all that stuff laying around there? All that stuff laying around in the desert?
Sand.
What is sand?
It's broken.
Silicon, which is crystal. Just so, go out and pick up some sand and let's make this thing, and we're real smart.
I don't see nothing to make this out of. Got a whole 250 square miles of it. Woo, boy. Well, hey, but anyway, I'm telling you, it gets funnier by the day. And the more it approaches the millennium, the funnier it gets. How blind we are, because all we can see, that's why you have to get rid of, I've talked about all this time about getting rid of that emotionalism. It's crap. All it does is keep you mired in the earth, keep you chained to the earth. And I don't mean the earth itself, I mean to heaviness. We can't have an intelligent thought because we're so heavy in emotionalism, in doubt, fear. These things have a wonderful place if you learn to. If you do your stop technique enough, you learn the heavy energy from the light energy. The heavy energy can be used to create things of a heavier nature. Stuff. But if you are, oh, I'm just so depressed. All you're thinking about is depression, and thereby creating more possibility of depression. That's all you're doing. You're using that wonderful creative power that could be used to create in the old ways for nonsense. See, here's how you split an atom. And what do? Make atomic bicycles. I'm going to jump the Grand Canyon. Well, okay, cool. That's the limitation of sight. Well, jumping the Grand Canyon is, I suppose, an incredible feat. It would be if you jumped it without anything. If you just started running and jumped it, I'd take notice of that. But since you're using an atomic engine, I don't think there's any great accomplishment in that. There is for the engine, but not for you. So it is having to get those things out of our way so that we see clearly. We're so involved in emotional games, emotional wars, that we can't liberate ourselves. We can't change lead to gold because we're too involved in our relationships, whomever that relationship is with, mother, father, sister, brother, lovers, countries, states, towns, whatever that relationship is, it's stupid. Stupid being that it is stupefied. Stupefied as in having too much grog to drink. You now become stupefied. Call it drunk. We are stupefied by those thoughts. Oh, woe is me. Woe, woe, woe. What a waste of magic. What a waste of power. Now, you have basically been given the secret to that whole entire period of time. But until you do the first step, it's just a tale of power, nothing more. It's a good story. These things are possible not because of magic, but because of science. Of course you can spread water. You can spread anything you want. You can spread an atom. It releases a lot of energy when you do it, but you can do it. Why not water? If you understand the dynamics of the nature of the universe. But you cannot not understand the dynamics of the nature of the universe and do it. You can't do it until you understand the nature of the dynamics. The only way you understand the nature of the dynamics of the universe is with a clear eye.